we came across multiple functions and classes, right? So as you can see, this is a to-do list class and you have a task class. Just imagine or think in this manner. Let's say I want to scale my applications. Scaling applications. This term is very important because whenever you design or develop web applications, you're basically addressing the problems of some huge number of users, or you're basically enabling huge number of users to use the application. So obviously you'll have multiple functionalities. So just imagine giving the same to-do list to some billion users. No one is going to use it, right? So unless it is having some mechanism to store everything on cloud and easy to access everywhere on the internet, on mobile and on web, or on browser. So to enhance these functionalities, or to increase the number of features in your application, what you need is you need some way of writing more number of classes. For example, just imagine you have this to-do list class. Okay, now you are trying to develop any application which would have a to-do list, some login functionality, and you want to add dates and time to a particular task. So here in this application, you just have, if you see our application that we built, or that we tried to build. So if you see, you have these, 1 second, me run it on the server. Yeah, let us say I want to add a cutoff date for a particular task, and some reminder notification, login functionality. I want to add a pick list calendar. Likewise, if you want to enhance these features, you end up writing lots of classes, and you'll get a lot of different components on your page itself. So to do all this, what you need is, the first thing as a developer you need is, you need to organize the code properly, right? So when the scale of your application increases, the amount of code that you're going to write increases. Okay, so we will try to look at the same application with a different perspective. Okay, so before even understanding React, we will first see how the code structure is going to change if you are switching from your normal HTML application with JavaScript included in it to a React application. Okay, let us see. I'll show you the way with which you might start working on React. So let us, as I always suggest, always try to refer to the documentation, though it is a little tough to understand. Okay, so I just typed React.js and I went to, so this is your official page of React, where you can see various different tabs here. Let us click on Learn React and try to understand what is there for us. So if I go to the tutorial, the first tutorial that you see is some random React application, and you got some code like this. Okay, we will try to understand this. And if you go to the next one, you see installation. So first, what we will do is, we'll try to install the application and see the file structure, how it is going to look. So I'm clicking on this, how to start a new React project. Okay. So here, if you see, one thing I want to make it clear is, you need to understand what is a framework. This is very confused term whenever someone talks about a framework, and if you're new to programming, it is pretty confusing. Okay, so what is a framework, what is a programming language, and what is a integrated development environment, and what is a library. Okay, let us look at one by one. Okay, first we talked about scaling the applications. The need is to scale, build is to scale the applications. This is the need that we have. Okay, but before going there, you need to understand the difference between the first one, programming language, scripting language, likewise, framework, library, or sometimes you can call your library as a package. Library or package is the same. It's just a different way of using it. So let us try to understand this. So programming language is pretty straightforward. It is something, as we discussed in our previous classes also, it is something which is going to the set of instructions that you directly use to talk to your CPU. Okay, these are just a simple set of instructions. And then you have your scripting language. JavaScript is one example of it. So scripting language really don't talk to the CPU directly or your operating system directly. There is a bridge in between, right? So which converts your scripting language. So a compiler, you can say a compiler or a runtime environment converts your script to programming language. Okay. So example of your programming languages, C++, you have Java, you have Python, likewise. There are so many, you can have a look. And here in your script, the best example is your JavaScript. There are many other scripting languages that you have in the market. So now, see, ultimately, your JavaScript should be understandable by your computer, right? So you run applications or you build things on your computer. So JavaScript is going to get translated by your Node.js, or essentially you can say your V8 engine, as we already discussed, by your in some scenarios it is Node.js and in some scenarios it is V8 engine, but the difference is even Node.js consists of V8 engine. So ultimately, if you talk, there is a reason why I'm mentioning Node.js here. We'll come back to it. Just keep this in mind. So V8 engine that converts your code into C++. Ultimately, this is going to be understandable by your computer directly. Now, what is a framework? So it is totally different from your programming language and scripting language. So framework, what it does is, see, when with a programming language, of course, you can build programs or you can build software, not a problem. But if you want to build something which is highly scalable, okay, and one is highly scalable means you will end up having some thousands of lines of code. And second reason is, and these thousands of lines of code should be manageable by multiple people in a project. Okay, because multiple, only single person is not going to write the entire code. So your code should be organized properly, and your code should be built in a very faster manner. This is the third reason. So likewise, these are all business requirements which made our inventors, to find something or a set of rules with which program should be written, or a framework. Normally, when we talk about a constitutional framework, you're basically talking about let's say democracy. Democracy itself is a framework you have in which people operate, politicians operate, your bureaucrats operate. They have set of rules defined, right? So your frameworks are also set of rules with which you need to write the code so that it becomes a standard across globally, you can say. Okay, that eases your uh, programming time. It basically reduces the time with which you write the code, and it organizes your code properly. Ultimately, in a framework, what you see is you see programming language. There are a few frameworks which are built on the top of programming languages. For example, Spring Boot is one framework, .NET is one framework, and you have your React.js, which is a JavaScript framework, Express.js, and you have your Angular. Likewise, you have multiple frameworks. So programming language is used, organized properly, and you have set of rules that you need to follow while writing the code or while building something. And now, what is a library or a package? So for beginners, library or a package is a set of functions or classes which are pre-written, which are made available to you. Okay, let us say, for example, you have this JSON parse function that we saw, or there are a few other functions that you have. So if someone collates all these functions together, let's say I want to build I want to use date time generator. Generating date and time programmatically, you might need to end up writing lots and lots of code. Okay, but library is something which gives you the information within. You just need to call a function or a class, and your library or package just gives you the written value. Okay, it is just a set of code. And in addition to these, if you look at the framework, in addition to your programming language, organized structure, set of rules that you need to follow, and you'll have libraries included in it. Okay, there are multiple libraries that you're going to use. The best example for your framework is, so I'm correcting myself. There is this confusion, or this, what do you call, once you start working on React, what happens is you'll feel that it is a framework, but it is not. Technically, it is not a framework, it is just a library. But now it is being called or treated as a framework because of the ability that it is offering, and the kind of sophistication that you got in React. Okay, so but best example of this is Angular is totally a framework. So yeah, that is the best example for the framework. And React.js should be treated as library. Of course, you can call it as a framework also. Okay. So if someone asks you what is a whether it is a framework or a library, just give a background of what this framework offer and what this library offers. And technically, it is a library. Even in the documentations, you will find key, React.js is library itself. Okay. So given you understood these basics, the difference between all these, and I want to highlight one thing, that is Node.js. First, you need to understand what is Node.js. So I have discussed this in our previous classes, but let me just reiterate on it. There was a very desperate need for the global market, or especially in the tech industry, that to standardize a language to develop web applications, mobile applications, and even local native applications, means which runs on your computers directly. Okay, you have your native application. These are major. You have these progressive web applications. So you might want to try to understand this PWAs. When if you have some time, just explore this progressive web applications. So these are the various different types. Let me just put it down here. So you have web apps, you have mobile apps. Likewise, you have native computer apps. Mobile apps also include the apps that you run on your uh, your tabs. You have native computer applications. This might even include your device consoles. Like, let's take these car consoles, internet modules. Now this IoT is becoming pretty popular, right? So Amazon Alexa, or these kind of examples which are already there in the market, and few embedded systems in your cars. they're also computers now. They're having very powerful processors, which basically process the information of your car and gives you some reasonable output so that you can understand the car. So you can say some embedded systems in the hardware, and also your progressive web applications. Okay, so now the thing is, whenever you start a business or your client asks you something, especially if it is not especially actually, whether your client is a B2B client, business to business, or a business to customer, he will have users who might use each and every device. Let's say if you are working somewhere, you should have your Outlook on your mobile phone. You should have it on your laptop. You should have it everywhere. You should be able to access it on every device that you have, right? So most of the requirements that you get from your client, they are applicable for all of these. So in one of the session we discussed SRS, the software requirement specifications, where they are going to mention which devices should be compatible. Now the thing is, when JavaScript became more powerful, let us say to create a mobile application, let's say here you need Android. You're going to create it on Android platform. You have your iOS platform. You're going to use both web apps. It is straightforward. You use JavaScript, or probably you might want to develop the backend with Java, JavaScript plus Java. And if you take Android, it mostly uses Java. iOS is having its own native language. Again, it is built on the top of Java, maybe. Here you have Java, Python, various different options. And in embedded systems, you might use Python. Sometimes you just use pretty primitive languages. Progressive web applications. We'll come to this progressive web applications because it's a very fine-tuned version. So just to develop an application for your client, you need to have a multitude of technologies to be known. And that is a problem because you need to hire all these people or people with all these skill sets. Now, what programmers thought was, why don't we make JavaScript common for all of this? Why don't we just make JavaScript? The only difference here is if you take Java, Python, and all the other languages that you have, they are directly programming languages. They are not scripting. They directly talk to your operating system. So what they thought was, why don't we develop some runtime, which is called Node.js, and make it understandable by your operating system directly. And this is what they did. Previously, it is just C++. I'm just giving you an example of C++, but there are other converters or other transpilers that you have. So this is what they did. And they made JavaScript to be, because you may ask why they chose JavaScript, why not Python? Why don't they develop something on Python? Because JavaScript became pretty powerful, where a lot of code, actually, sometimes if you see, your front-end code would be more in volume than your backend code. Okay, so and it is easier to write your code in JavaScript. So this is what they did. They invented something called your Node.js, and let's try to understand Node.js and then come to React. So the reason why I'm talking about Node.js is because even if you want to start React, you need to understand what Node.js is and how it works. Okay, so see, here you can clearly see you need to install Node.js for local development. You can also choose to use Node.js in production. If you are a beginner, production means you're what do you call? Oh, sorry. Production is the actual environment or a system where your end users are going to use. Or in simple terms, the computer which is made available to your end users. They can use the application over there. Node.js is one thing. Local development means you develop on your system, but you don't have to. Many React frameworks support export to static. So fold. Okay, we will understand this. Exporting to static HTML, CSS, and JS. Did you observe something? Ultimately, whether you develop it on React or Angular, ultimately it comes down to HTML, CSS, and JS. That's what we learned from the beginning. Okay, because this is the web page or the document that we talked about, the doc. Okay, so likewise, here they are talking about production. First, they are talking about production grade React frameworks. Okay, so if you understand the first statement, if you want to build, I'm just reading the statement for you. If you want to build a new app or a new website fully with React, we recommend picking one of the React powered frameworks. Here they are making it very clear, React powered frameworks, but they are not saying React frameworks. In the community, and frameworks provide features that most apps and sites eventually need, including routing, data fetching, and generating HTML. So routing is one of the key concept in React. Data fetching is just, I think it is directly comprehensive. Means you need to fetch data from somewhere, from where? Your server or your database, and generating the HTML. Isn't it what JavaScript does? It fetches your data and generates your HTML or throws something on your screen. And routing means navigating from one page to the other page. Okay, so in the application that we are seeing, there are no pages. It is a pretty single page. There is nothing here. It's a very small application. Or even if you see any normal websites, you end up navigating from one place to the other. So one of the major key features that you will have in any UI framework is fetching the data, generating the HTML, throwing it on your browser, and going from one page to the other. These are the major three activities that you do. Now, this documentation is little, because see, the problem with the documentations are, just to understand this statement, this particular statement, you need to do a lot of research. You need to understand what Node.js is and whatever we discussed till now. You need to understand all this, and only then it makes sense. Only then this statement makes sense to you. Now let us complete the last part, that is understanding Node.js. Okay, I am on the official site of Node.js, where you can see the opening statement. It's an open source cross-platform JavaScript runtime environment. JavaScript runtime means very simple. It understands JavaScript and it translates JavaScript to something else. And that something else is understandable by your processor or your operating system. Your operating system is directly built on the top of your CPU or your computer CPU. Okay. So you have multiple versions downloading and everything. That is fine. And I'm just trying to look for if they gave any other inputs here. Okay. Let us understand this statement first. I'll try to make it as simple as possible for you. As an asynchronous event-driven JavaScript runtime, Node.js is designed to build scalable network application. That is fine. Now, what is this? Asynchronous event-driven JavaScript runtime. So event-driven, we'll try to understand this later, but asynchronous means what exactly? This term is very important for you. Asynchronous and synchronous. Just to make it pretty easy for you, synchronous is sequential, one by one execution or line by line execution. Asynchronous works differently. It is basically developed, or this feature is basically developed for one main reason, which is a drawback of your JavaScript. And this point is very important. One of the difference, or the major difference between your typical programming languages and your JavaScript is multi-threading. Okay. Now, what do you mean by multi-threading? Multi-threading is probably the name would suggest you executing multiple processes at the same time, parallelly, your parallel processing. So if you see your Java is multi-threaded, your Python is multi-threaded, and most of the programming languages are multi-threaded. But your JavaScript is not multi-threaded. It is going to have it is having only a single thread. So there is a lot of information out there on the internet to understand JavaScript is sorry. This is one of the very common question that you might get in your interviews. They want to understand why we should use asynchronous. Why should we use asynchronous event-driven JavaScript runtime? Why not synchronous? Okay. See, JavaScript is a single-threaded language because while running the code on single thread, it can be really easy to implement as we don't have to deal with complement scenarios and all. That is fine. But the problem is very simple. Whenever I'm trying to order on Zomato, or especially on my website, I want to select the location or take this example. You're chatting with someone on your LinkedIn. I want to do a post parallelly, send a message, and also do some scrolling on my news feed. And this is pretty common, right? With JavaScript, with just JavaScript or synchronous JavaScript, which is plain. Forget about asynchronous feature. Okay, we'll come back to that later. If you are just using JavaScript without asynchronous features, this is how you use LinkedIn. You send a message, you wait for the message to be sent, get a delivery tick mark or whatever. You wait for it, let that operation to get completed, then come to the newsfeed, scroll it, let the post completely load, and then wait for it, go to the next post, then go to your text box where you write your post message or your post, whatever you're doing, and do it that way. You need to do it in a sequential manner. If you're doing it that way, is it a good user experience? Obviously, no. We want our applications to be having this what do you call simultaneous processing. Everything should run on the fly. I don't want to wait for anything. Okay. Or let us say just imagine this. You sent a message and your screen got freezed. It is waiting for the response, whether it is sent or not. You need to get an acknowledgement, no, that whether it is sent or not. Till then, your screen is blocked. It is a very bad behavior. You really don't encourage it, right? So when your applications get scalable, again, we are coming back to the same problem or the business requirement that we are talking about. That is scalability. If you are scaling this application, you would definitely need multi-threaded JavaScript. And what makes your JavaScript multi-threaded? That is your asynchronicity. Okay, how to achieve it and how to write the code, we'll dig into that later. But this is the concept behind it. Okay, this is one of the key features of your JavaScript. Okay, so I am giving this article as reference. Just try to go through this, try to understand. We'll come back to these explanations, but if you are someone who is already aware of these concepts, you can just have a little reading of this. I'm just giving the link over here. I'll share this document with you guys. Okay, so that is what your asynchronicity is. And here they are saying, okay, they are trying to talk about something. This is all fine. And that is Node.js for you. But here, as we are more concerned about React, so you would need Node.js to be installed on your local development environment. You have multiple resources to do it. Just try to understand how to install your Node.js. This is all fine. I'm going to the next one. Production grade React frameworks. Okay. So they're talking about something called Next.js. Next.js is a full stack React framework. It's versatile, let you create React applications of any size, from a blog to complex dynamic application. So this is Next.js. I don't want to, put a lot of load on you at the moment. Once you understand React.js, Next.js is a cakewalk. So don't worry about it. Likewise, you have something called Remix. You might ask, what is the need of using all this? It's very simple. The need is these people, Next.js, Remix, or whatever, Gatsby, Expo. This is for native applications. As I told you, the native applications that we have here, you can use React plus Node. Both are JavaScript, especially it is Express.js. This is also JavaScript for you, right? And so these are all you have. Okay, this is what they are talking about with production grade frameworks. Okay, let us say I'm a very new person to this React, and I just want to install it normally. I just want to go with a basic installation, because if I'm going to use these production grade frameworks, you might not understand what exactly is happening. So don't worry about all this, but this entire usage you will eventually understand once you get some hands-on on your React itself. Okay, let us find the other ways. Let's see the editor setup. Okay, this is my editor setup. This is using TypeScript. They're saying editor setup. What they mean exactly is, as I told you, your VS Code is one of the popular editor or an integrated development environment that you use to develop on React and Angular. So they are giving a direct ability for you to do the setup with likewise you have VS Code, WebStorm, Sublime, Vim. There are multiple. IntelliJ is one framework that you might want to use. It is really good, but it is premium, I guess. IntelliJ or Kotlin. This is also one of the suggested framework that you might want to use for JavaScript. WebStorm is also good, so you can go with it as well. Now, let us see. Using TypeScript. Okay. Now, what is the problem that we are trying to address with TypeScript? Okay, I'll just give you a little brief about TypeScript. This is very common way of writing code. So TypeScript versus JavaScript. Okay, this is one concept that you need to understand. So in TypeScript, typically what we do is we will do the type checking, and if you take your JavaScript, you can basically declare any variable. There is no constraint of declaring it as a number or a string or a character, whatever, right? So type checking is something which restricts you to make a particular variable of a specific type. First of all, why should we even make it is because there are few problems that you might get if you don't do the type checking properly. So type checking in JavaScript is the first thing that you need to understand. Okay, so you need to think in reverse. That is, why should you need type checking? What are the problems that you might face? This is a topic that I'm going to give you to explore today. What is the need of TypeScript first, and what happens if you don't check for a type? for a data type. What all problems you might get into. First understand it, then you will realize the importance of TypeScript here. Okay, so here you can basically create your React application or your React code using TypeScript as well. So this is the reason one important thing here is most of the applications use TypeScript, they don't use JavaScript. Okay, but don't get confused, both are almost same. Okay, both are almost the same, but only a difference is you do type checking in TypeScript, and type checking the feature itself isn't available in your JavaScript. Okay, there are a few ways, but it is not suggested. Most of the production grade applications use TypeScript itself. Okay, now let us look at setting up my, yeah, here you have the last one that they are talking about here is React developer tools. Developer tools we already explored. We understood how you need to debug your developer tools. If you are not, if you want to just revise it once more, just go to our previous lectures or the recordings. So using developer tools is very important. That is one reason why we have few dev tools designed specifically for React. Okay, for all these browsers. So you can install those dev tools, and it would basically make your life more easy. And one more thing that I want to mention here is React Native. React Native is used to develop mobile applications for you using React.js again. Okay, so here what I observed is in the documentation. See, this is the problem that I always mention. Your documentation is having production grade setup of React.js, but as a beginner, you don't need it. Okay, you really don't need it. What we will do is we will come back to this anyway, or let me do one thing. First, let me use this and let us install the application with Next.js only. First, go to your console or go to your VS Code. I'm creating a new window altogether. And here, let me open the terminal. I just opened my terminal. For you, it is command prompt on your Windows. Okay, here I am writing. Let us see whether it is going to work here or see. I wrote npx create next app @latest. Okay, let me break this down into parts. Now, what is npx? So before even understanding npx, you need to understand two things. To understand your npx, so npx basically stands for Node Package Runner. Okay. So before understanding this, you need to understand something called npm. Okay. Now, what is this npm? If you already worked on your Python or Java, you might want to. It would become easy for you to relate. If you want to use any library, right? You need to have a runner or a package installer. Now again, package or library are the same. And I also told you that React is a library, first of all. And to build an application with React, you need you just don't need React actually. There are multiple other libraries which will support your React application to run it or just to open a small application. Okay. So We will dig into those libraries and what are the supporting libraries that you have. But let us see this one. I'm just searching for React. Just click on search and see I got this. React is a JavaScript library for building user interfaces. Published a year ago. The version is 18.2.0. Okay. Let me ask Google what is the current version. What is the current version of this? Is very, very important, guys. Understanding the current version is the key. Okay. You might see here there are this is the latest 18.2.0, and even in npm it is the updated one 18.2.0. Likewise, you have a lot of versions. Let's look at the first version. 15.6 is the first version, I guess. Okay. The reason why you need to understand the versions is because you never know what would be the project that you're going to work at, right? And you never know which version of React they are using. And each and every version will have its own updates. One function which works in React, let's say 16, might not work in 18, or the features that you have in 18 will be totally different. Okay, this is very, very important. Okay, so every time if you are a React developer, you should be updated what is there in 18.1, what is not there in 18.2, and what is new there. So for each and every version, you need to understand the differences. Okay, so yeah, if you see here, npm is a JavaScript library, and the command to install it is npm I react. This is the command. Now let us see. We will come back to this. Okay, don't worry. npx create next app. We will come back to this. As per the documentation, we are going. But before understanding npx, we need to understand npm. Let me open an application. I am opening a separate window altogether. Let me run this and see what happens. npm I, you can use I or install, anything is fine. Install React. Okay. So means you're basically installing a package. In other words, for beginners, if you're writing your C code, or sorry, you're writing any C program, you write this hash include stdio.h, right? To write these input output operations, printf, scanf, all this stuff. So that is a library that you're including. So here I want to include a library called React. That's what I'm doing. I'm just installing React into my computer, into my local computer. See what happens. It added 3 packages is what I see here. Oh, sorry. Let me do one thing. I'll create some folder here. Sample React. Let me do these things in your folder so that you will have a clear understanding. Now let me open the terminal. New terminal. Test folder and continue. Yeah. Now my command line is in sample React. Okay. Now let me run it. npm install React. Am I not able to see anything here? 1 second. Let me check this in my document. Let's see if there is anything that is available. 1 second. Where is this document folder? You're able to see my screen?
VS Code is there.
Hmm. Whenever you install, yeah, why am I not getting the packages? Let's see if there is any problem here. Mm-mm. I think the node isn't working. Sure. I have the node installed. So normally what should happen here is whenever you run npm install React, it should it would basically create uh, a folder called node modules. Let me try this once again. Open a folder, go to documents, and this in the terminal. Is it probably because I selected I don't trust the others? Okay, we'll come back to this. I think there is some issue with my Node.js. We'll try to debug it. Let's go further. So, essentially, what happened? Let me show you here. This is called. We use code sandbox to show it so that your environment would be ready. Yeah, code sandbox is something that you can use to set up applications. It is easy to use. You have the environment created here already. Yeah. So in my code sandbox, if you see, go to the terminal and basically creates a separate runtime environment for you. Let me show. Here you already have your, you know, React installed. So let me show you the structure. The first thing that you see here is let me try it in a different folder. So yeah, here previously somehow it is not showing the packages in my VS Code, but I'll tell you what exactly this does. npx create React app, and you also saw in the official documentation we came across one command that is I'm noting down these here. One is your npx create a React app, and you can give a name to it. So this create React app is again a package of Node.js, which is focused or which will basically generate a React application completely. It generates a React application, but it doesn't just install React.js library. Both are different. Okay. So you have npm install React.js, install React or React.js. So this just installs React library, and there is only one library of React, just a small package. But npx create React application, what it does is it creates a React application. Both are totally different. Okay. And you saw one more command in our documentation, the official documentation, npx create React next app. Create next app. It is not a React application, it is a Next.js application. Creates Next.js application. Inside that, you have your React.js embedded in it. These three are totally different. Now, first of all, what is the difference between your npm and npm versus npx? So here you can see npm is a package manager used to install, delete, and update JavaScript packages. Simple words. It just, if you want a new library of JavaScript that you want to use, you can use npm. You want to install it. npx basically runs a series of commands together, series of Node.js commands together. For example, if you see here, you're saying this create React app, comma, this is one script, my app is one script. So if you want to run multiple scripts together to execute something or to run something, then you, in that case, you're going to use npx. If you want to, you can go deeper and understand this. See, for example, you can call it node package runner or executor. npm is your package manager. Yeah, it is a npm package runner. It allows developers to execute any JavaScript package available in npm registry. That is the uh, uh, obligation here. So if you see create React app, this is one command that you're using. This is also a library available in your npm manager. Even you can install it in your system. The reason why they created npx is just to reduce your time, reduce your setup time. Okay. So you can just explore this article, try to understand these two. A very typical and common interview question you might get. Okay. npm versus npx. Now let us see a very basic React application, one of the version, one of my favorite version, you can say. So here I'm getting few errors. You can see you're running create React app 5.0 behind the latest release. If you want to upgrade to the latest release, actually it is asking you to forcefully do that. Let me just follow what they are saying. Please remove the global installations. Okay, I'm removing it. Remove the packages. They are not in my system now. Let me just install it first. See, it wants you to install it first. Does this justify the word, the statement? There is one statement that we studied here. JavaScript, execute any JavaScript packages available without even installing it. Okay, let us see if it, now I uninstalled it. Let's see if it is going to work or not. npx, let's try this. Okay, see. Now it is going to ask you, do you want to install it? I want to install, yes. I'm typing yes. Acha. Again, you're running create React app 4.0.3. Acha, it is again asking me to remove the older versions. Let me do that. It is up to date. Let me go back to the previous command, npx again. I want to proceed. Let me do one thing. Now let me install the actual version or the latest version. Npm install create React app. Okay, it installed the new package. Let me run it once. See now, I installed it. Actually, there were a lot of older versions that I was using for create React app. Now I installed the latest version, and then I'm trying to run my command. And that command that I ran here is this one. You might want to go through this recording once again because a lot of stuff that is related to commands is going to happen. Npx create React app, my app. So my app is the name of the application. As you can see, the application that got created, the name is having this one. Okay, it is going to take some time to create all this. So in order to bring all these packages together and run the application, you might uh, see there are a lot of commands that got executed, and you can see if it is a successful installation, you get these commands. So here they mention it is successful. There are a few other commands that you can run. These are all the commands that you can run. Let us test. Let's see what happens if I run npm start. See, they mention here starts the development server. I'm running npm start. Oh, wait, yes. Why is it missing? 1 second. Okay. So npm start, I should run it inside my app folder. So cd my app, I'm going inside the folder cd, and then here I'm writing npm start. See, it opens my. So this is the React application that got opened. Okay, very good, fair enough, very fancy. But what exactly is happening behind the scenes is something that you need to understand. Okay, so what exactly happens behind and what got generated here? There are multiple things that happen here, if you can see. But first, let us bother about two things. One is ultimately you're going to create a website or a web app. Okay, so you need to have a index.html. That is the first thing. Now, where is my index.html? Here it is. In your public folder, you have index.html. That is fine. Every website will have or any website or a web application. Remember this, ultimately it is going to have only one HTML, one JavaScript, one CSS file. Okay, so I have the HTML, but there are multiple JS files. No, I have one JS file here, one more, likewise. But let us see what is there that is getting rendered on the browser. See, on the browser, you are seeing localhost 3000 here, localhost 3000, and some page is getting displayed. If you go and inspect it, go to the sources, as you already know. Look at the page. You have an index page. You have some JavaScript, some bundle.js, and have some media. What's it? Some CSS. And you're not going to see all these files over there, because after the runtime, you're just going to generate one HTML, one JavaScript, one CSS. Okay. So this is how you create a basic React application. And in the next class, we will try to understand this file structure. And yeah, so all the concepts that we discussed in this session, just please go through them. And also I'll be attaching this sheet to the video or the recording that I'm going to share. Any questions you can ask? Okay. So majorly try to understand what is your NPX and a few other concepts that we discussed. Okay. Tomorrow itself we'll continue with the class maybe, and we'll try to understand the structure and a few more terms that we need to know. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thanks.